SMART goals by the world's design is really laid out like this: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. That is what the world has taught us. And if you have been in sales or you have done anything with goal setting, this has probably come up at some point. The only thing here that is somewhat related to what God says is the specific, but that's not entirely what he says. The rest of it, I'm going to show you how it really doesn't apply to what God says. God says those who think they can do it on their own end up obsessed with measuring their own moral muscle, but never get around to exercising it in real life. Those who trust God's action in them find that God's Spirit is in them, living and breathing God. Obsession with self in these matters is a dead end. Attention to God leads us out into the open, into a spacious, free life. Focusing on the self is the opposite of focusing on God. Anyone completely absorbed in self ignores God, ends up thinking more about self than God. And that person ignores who God is and what he is doing, and God isn't pleased at being ignored. Romans 8, 5-8. When you are looking at those positive affirmations, those self-help programs that are out there, many of them will focus on you. You got to do what makes you happy. You got to be in a place that makes you happy. You have the ability to do anything that you set out to do. There is a focus into yourself, into being inward. And that, my friends, is the danger zone. When you are working on a goal by God's design, you're going to start with prayer, but you have to be specific. Matthew 20, 30-34. This is the story of the blind men who were sitting there and saying, God, please, Jesus, please have mercy on us. Father, have mercy on us. This is what they're saying. And Jesus turns around and says, what do you want me to do for you? And they said, we want to be able to see. And so he took pity on them and he gave them the ability to see by just touching their eyes. A lot of times we pray the way these men did. Lord, please help me. Lord, please help me. Lord, please help me. And he's saying, what do you want me to do for you? You need to be specific. You need to let him know exactly what it is you want. Exactly. I want a home. I want a home that isn't going to be surrounded by dogs and cats and crazy neighbors. I want to have a substantial amount in my bank account, more than enough to pay for today's bills and tomorrow's bills and into the future. I want $10,000 on a consistent basis in my account. Everything must be specific. So you start and you're specific, okay? Remember, what do you want me to do for you? That's what you're answering. Then you have to check your motives. The M is not measurable because God doesn't measure anything. He's like, anything is possible, right? So motives. James 4:3 says, yet even when you do pray, your prayers are not answered because you pray just for selfish reasons. Remember, we were talking about being absorbed with self. One of the best ways that you can get more is to serve more. Serve more. Do more for others. Think more about how you can help someone else's opportunity instead of your own. And that, my friends, will make all the difference. You don't get more by doing more. You get more by serving more. Okay, so the reason why a lot of us don't get what we want is because we are only thinking of ourselves, praying and asking for something just for ourselves and not really looking at the bigger picture. So ask yourself two questions. What's my motivation and who does it serve? What's my motivation and who does it serve? Then you want to this A in SMART goals, ask God's opinion. And you want to ask boldly, very specific and very boldly. If you don't know what you're doing, pray to the Father. He loves to help. You'll get his help and you will not be condescended to when you ask for it. Ask boldly believingly without a second thought. People who worry their prayers are like wind-whipped waves. Don't think you're going to get anything from the master that way. Adrift at sea, keeping all your options open. Okay, we need to be very specific and we need to be bold. All right. We don't want to be this wishy-washy back and forth like a wind-whipped wave, right? So asking is the third step. We're going to start with prayer, specific prayer. We're going to check our motives. What's my motivation and who does it serve? And then we're going to ask God's opinion. Now, this is when it gets a little bit tricky because you need to be ready for the ridiculous. Guys, do you think that when Noah was going and setting goals and talking with God, and God said to go build this ark in the middle of nowhere where there's no water to be seen, do you think that he may have thought that might have been a little ridiculous? He did it anyway. And what about Moses? Moses was in a predicament and he's, hey, I need some help here, God. I need to get over the sea, but I don't know how we're going to get there. And God says, just take that staff and raise it up and you will part the waters. I have to imagine that Moses raised an eyebrow and said, really? Really? Just raise this stick up and I can part the sea? And then Naaman was a king and he was very sick with leprosy, and God said to go bathe in the Jordan River 7 times and he would be healed. Now, he probably could have snuck out one time and gotten in the Jordan River without a lot of people seeing him. But imagine 7 times to go to the Jordan River to be cured. He checked his motives, he asked God for help, and he had to be ready for the ridiculous. Are you ready for the ridiculous? Are you ready for God to ask you to do something that's a little bit out there, a little bit crazy? And then you have to trust the process. Guys, if you put it in God's hands, then you have to believe that every step that you are taking, every decision that you are making, every person that's in front of you is there for a reason. You must trust the process. Do not doubt. Do not be a wind-whipped wave. Believe that God is giving you exactly what you asked for in his timing, of course, but he is doing it. That is the SMART goals by God's design. You start with prayer, you check your motives, you ask his opinion, you get ready for the ridiculous and the audacious, and you trust the process. That is your SMART goals by God's design. I hope this has been helpful for you today, and I pray that you are putting these things, these principles into action and making a difference in your life. Have a wonderful day.